Well, hello, Arjuna. Hi, and welcome to today to help to share an inspirational story, or to share some inspirations around life's choices, and how we can make choice for change within ourselves. To maybe help ourselves navigate through challenges that may be occurring within our world, and within ourselves. Well, we'll just see where it goes. And I'm always been inspired by you, and your book that is just an amazing way to learn about that we do ultimately have choices that we can easily make. So yeah, it was about whether we choose for currently, today's we're talking sort of April 2020, just to put a date stamp on the video. But we're finding ourselves in a climate where it could appear that we don't have very much choice. And in that we have little control over what choices we can or can't make. It's interesting to see what your take is on that.
Yeah, well, I was talking to someone actually 10 minutes before we got on, and I was reminded of the Alcoholics Anonymous prayer. Serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And at the moment, there's so much that we cannot change. In fact, the situation at the moment really shows us that really we're not in control of much. We all had a collective idea of a certain unfolding of a future, just an assumption that things would continue on the way that they will, right? That even something as being able to pop as simple as pop down to the local cafe and grab a coffee, that would be a continuous way of life forever. And it's shaken us, because all of those expectations and assumptions and structures of the future have been totally upended, and nothing's been put in place. There's no future in terms of our mental picture of it. And so from my point of view, we can get frustrated about the things that we have no control over, because we are human beings, are great doers, aren't we? We love to be able to do stuff and plan and get going and do. But we're very poor. Let's just sit tight and see what happens. We're very bad at patience. We're very bad at just being serene and accepting while the future lays itself out in front of us. But that's the invitation I see for this period of time, is that we have no idea. There is absolutely no idea. And the truth is, we've never had an idea. And so the only answer, for me at least, is the acceptance, the serenity, which is a very present moment thing. You have to be present, because the other option, the other choice you could involve yourself in is worry or frustration that it's not working out the way or quickly as you want. You can focus on all the things that you've lost, that you can't do, that cafe, you've lost your freedom to wander down there. You can so focus on what's missing, what's not right, what shouldn't be, what might be. But the fact is, life is here. Life is this. Life is this moment. And we've always, again, as humans, as planners and doers, we've always skipped this to try and bring some better moment in the future to us quicker. So from my point of view, there's two things there: be present and be really aware of what you're focusing on. Because anything else, future surfing and getting involved in worry and disaster and chaos, just hurts so bad. And if I may, you know, I just, I was, because I've got a 3-year-old daughter, and she used to be at nursery every single morning, which was wonderful. I could do my thing. And now my thing is caretaker. But she was interested in my books, and she pulled, one of the first things she pulled off was Viktor Frankl, his book, Man's Search for Meaning, which is about, have you read it? Yeah, so if you haven't read it, it's about his experiences of being locked up in a Nazi concentration camp during the Second World War, and how vicious and appalling and without hope these places were. And one of the things he says, that even in the concentration camps, is that you always have a choice. Even in hell on earth, the people there still had a choice whether to focus on the hopelessness, the deprivation, the violence, or to focus on the simple beauty, the choice to help somebody else, to give their lives, to define meaning of their own lives, rather than letting meaning being imposed by the Nazis. And it's the same with us. We can choose to make our own meaning of this moment, or we can let a media-driven virus panic define it for us. But that's your choice, whether you take on that or whether you decide to make your own choice and define your moment, your story, your sense of meaning and purpose for yourself. So, you know, if Viktor Frankl can do it in a concentration camp, we can do it even if you're stuck in the smallest of apartments. It really is about where you put your attention, where you consciously choose to put your attention.
Yeah, you know, that focus, that noticing where we put our attention, can really pull us, especially if it's in a very emotional pull. You've got responsibilities, maybe around other members of the family that may not be near you, and therefore, you know, your concerns can spiral because, you know, it's unknowns, fears, you know, you're not sure that you have full control again. And it can be quite an emotive place to place your attention, because you've got these responsibilities to others, you know. So that's a bit tricky, I think, you know, for a lot of people, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's almost like the way that we work as humans, we believe that it would be irresponsible not to worry. That taking care of our people means getting stressed, getting worried, getting anxious for them. But truthfully, when has worry ever helped? It's wasted energy. And yet we've built up a habit of getting so stuck into it that it almost seems like a normal part of the human condition, and it's not. It's not. In fact, if anything, it's decreasing your ability. We know that stress, mental, emotional stress, is one of the biggest effects on your immune system. So were you to come in contact with a virus, one of the best things that you can do is be at peace. But being at peace is so much more valuable than worrying, because it gives you clarity. It allows you to step back and see the whole situation. It gives you creativity. When you're worried and afraid, you have that quiet voice of intuition and inspiration is drowned by fear. So worry seems like a good idea. And I get it that you love and you care for your people, but you have to protect your peace. It's the most valuable thing you possess. It is. And especially if you've got little ones who tune into this so well, your peace is like a beacon for them. No matter the chaos in the world, if you're at peace, you become this rock solid sense of stability for them. And it doesn't matter what you say or what you do, it's how you are, your presence. And in that presence, it's everything. It's everything. Your words and your actions are hollow without it. If you're saying the right things but terrified on the inside, people know on some level.
Mm.
And so yeah, it's a really good point. But it's kind of a revolution of human consciousness. I see it, of flipping around and heading back to the Alcoholics Anonymous prayer, saying, really, what am I in control of? The things that I worry about, truly, I'm not in control of. And 9 times out of 10, when we worry about something, how often does it actually come about? I know I'm talking a lot. I hope that's okay, but
Yeah.
many years ago, my mum died of cancer, and it was a slow build-up. So I got to fly home to New Zealand and spend some time with her. But it was fascinating because I saw this so crystal clear, black and white. I could worry about the doctor's latest prognosis. I could sit there and look at her in the face and worry and go, she's looking worse, she's looking sicker, there's less energy. This is not the mum that I know from a week ago or 10 years ago. I could so focus on what might happen and my interpretation of what was happening, the timeline, or I could drop that and completely enjoy an interaction with her as she is right now. That vast difference between this moment and her exactly as she is versus my fear and my worry and what the doctor said might happen. It was such a black and white thing. And in my head, it was saying, no, you need to worry about it. You need to kind of focus on this thing. You need to look out for these signs. And yet the experience of my heart was, no, here is my mum. I'm losing precious time with her. I'm wasting valuable moments to connect or talk or just sit quietly in her presence through an imagination, through a maybe, a what if. And it's exactly the same here. Be really clear when you're getting stuck into an imagination, a dream, a what if, and make the most of what you do have.
Mm. Mm.
So important.
Yeah, it is. It is so important. We can, the mind, and that's been my experience. How it can take you on such an imaginary journey of, pure fabrication. It's just, and actually those fearful thoughts, that actually that we create, that I used to create. That used to send me off in all sorts of directions, unnecessaries, and it creates real ill health and unrest in the body. It has a major impact on the body. Out of the if the mind isn't rested, then the body can't seem to do that, and that's another big part of when our imaginations run riot, so to speak, that it can cause so much disorder in the body too. Yeah.
I'm sitting here by a window, and I can look out to the window and see my garden, the sun's shining, the wind's blowing, and it's one view, but it's filtered, right? There's a wall, there's the glass, which is kind of dirty. I need to get out there and clean it. Or I could actually get out and communicate, be in with the reality of my garden as it is, without a filter. Now, we think we live on one planet, but we're actually living on, how many people live on the world? 8 billion planets.
Yeah.
We don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. And we already know that, when you're happy, the world is a completely different place from when you're angry, from when you're just had some bad news from the Department of Welfare, when you've just had some bad news from your partner, whatever. Your mind and your emotions create such a filter, such a window to the world. So if you want to participate in reality, and you create that, you create your own reality. That's what Buddha was meaning in those quotes that I'm sure he was misquoted by. But with our thoughts, we create our reality. With our emotions, we filter everything.
Mm.
So if you truly want to experience the world as it is, life as it is, you have to step around those filters. You have to realize that they're in place, first of all, be self-aware enough and communicate with it directly. Not your assumptions, your expectations, your ideas, your what ifs, your past, the future, but direct right here, right now. And that letting go is so simple. It is really just seeing where you have an expectation in play, where you're wrapped up in the future or the past, and simply dropping that and being very quietly, well, not even quietly, but curiously attentive to what this moment contains.
Mm. Mm.
But you're so right, we're creating our own reality all the time. So if you don't like it, choose something else.
Yeah, and you said that, it's that letting go, and it's so easy. And people may think that actually it's not. How can letting go? What am I letting go? The mind, there's that paradox, isn't there, where the mind wants to make it so difficult because it thinks that it's got a strategy behind how it's going to deal with that situation or emotional thought, whatever it might be, but actually a lot of people can't seem to, some people find it difficult to actually let go, because they don't know how to let go, and that they think that there's another way. I've got to work at that letting go somehow.
When I get to the end of the problem, there'll be a full stop, and that's the letting go.
Mm-hmm.
And it's never the case. The problem that your head loves to chew on, that there is no answer. And that's the trouble the doers in us have, is I need to sort this out, put a full stop, close the book and put it away before I can let go. And we've all tried that, and it doesn't really work in terms of giving us peace, a better night's sleep, any of these things. I was, my girlfriend was always on at me saying, "Hey, are you listening? Where are you?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm listening," but I never was. I was still working on trying to put a full stop on a problem that happened at work 6 hours ago. And the same, just exactly what you said there. It's so amazing how this kind of revolution of the way we use our brain, the way we sort out problems is well, and for peace and actually greater effectiveness needs to happen soon. I think of it as the eureka moment. Do you remember that story of, I think it was Archimedes, who was working hard on a problem? He just went home and had a bath, and it was in this moment of letting go, when he stopped thinking about it, when he just slipped into the bath, something clicked, and it was like, he ran off naked down the street to finish his thing. But it's the same with us. Our brains' problems need time. They need space to resolve. Yeah, that's a different way of working out problems. And intuition is so often overlooked in that. The rational brain says, I need to be logical. And yet so often it's a flash of insight, a flash of intuitive, creative ahas that give us the words to say next, or the next step, or the solution. And yet we don't trust that. We've given far too much power to the rational, logical point A, work it out, end up at point Z. But and that has its place. But I think if people are honest, even the most logical, rational sorting out is very present when you're in that sense of flow. Like you hear high achievers in sports or mathematics or writing, any creative field, we'll talk about just being the next step being presented, something being downloaded through me. You can't get in your own way too much. You can't think too hard, because it just puts the brakes on everything. And it's the same with this. It's the same with living life. apparently.
Yeah. And you know, in your book, you describe that there's these two games, the two games of life. I mean, you describe that inner and outer game. Actually, you know, the both interact with each other so much. You know, and I know from my past that my measure on my outside life was if my work life was great, my relationship life was great, everything was great, then I was great. I felt great. And when one area of my life wasn't so, I, as we've just talked about, tried to really work hard to try and fix and improve it and look for a solution, you know. And it required a lot of energy. It didn't always work out because it did require a lot of emotional and physical energy. Um, and so that was my whole life measure of the inner and outer game. But I wasn't nurturing the inner game in the right way. You know, I was measuring my outer game in how I felt inwardly, and that's not what you're talking about here, is it? In that respect.
No, not at all. It's such a good point that you make, is that we even break it down to, if I'm having good thoughts, I'm a good person. And the more I practice the Ishaya's Ascension, the more I realize that our thoughts are a force of nature. They can be like a radio transmitter that we have in our brain, and we can pick up all sorts of things from other people. We can really pick up on a vibe of fear if we chose to do so. But if I judged how I was doing based on what I was thinking, oh, that's tough. And yet we get into that whole resist kind of fight of trying to push away certain thoughts and trying to pull certain ones towards us. And it's so much easier to step back from all of it, to know that some things we just aren't in control of. We will do our best, of course, we'll put our best foot forward. And as you say, in our work and our relationship and our health, we'll do the things that we can, but there's so much we can't. There's so much, you know, when you're a gardener and you plant seeds, not all of those seeds are going to sprout. You put your heart into each one, but you know that not all of them are going to come through. And it's the same with life. We do things and not all of them are going to come to the fruition that we hope for. Sometimes it comes even better, like even better than we could have planned. And sometimes it happens even worse than we could have planned, we could have feared. But what it comes back to is realizing, do you know what? I did my best. If there was a mistake, I learned from it. I'll do things differently next time. We so get focused on I did things right or I did things wrong, based on, as you say, the fruits, the results, what actually comes through. And I think this whole life is a journey, not of right and wrong, but of just becoming better, becoming more skillful, becoming more accepting that not everything's going to happen the way that we want to. If we look at it and go, oh, well, I could have done that differently, great. But you always have to restart, reset, and go again. But it's a beautiful point, is that, and maybe Krishna meant that, was that we're not, Krishna from the Bhagavad Gita, when he was talking to Arjuna and saying, I can't remember what he said, but we're not, we only are responsible for the actions. We're not responsible for the fruits of those actions. It's not up to us. And when you take that pressure off yourself, it becomes so much easier, because, I can do this. And it stops you controlling and fighting and trying to find the solution to every single problem. It's a powerful act to be responsible for what you do, but not for what happens. But yeah.
Yeah.
Is a thing I talk about in the book, and it was revolutionary for me, at least when I saw it, was just the difference between when I resist reality, when I resist what happens, what is happening right here, right now. I can fight and I can struggle and I can whine and complain. I can actively try and force my idea of what should be happening through what is happening. And that never works. All it creates is steam coming out of my ears and frustration and a feeling of why. I can shake my fists at the sky and go, why is this happening to me? Or I can accept. If I've tried changing it or leaving the situation, the only other option really is to go, oh, well, let's just leave it. Let's accept reality being what it is, suspend my plan, be flexible enough to give up and try something else. Mm-hmm. But I think that we so have an idea of what it should be in work, relationship, health, all of those things, that we can't be flexible enough to be open to how we create our own pain, our own suffering, simply through resistance. My 3-year-old has taught me so much about resistance. And now she's getting to 3, she's learning resistance herself. No, I want it this way. But it's a powerful move, and it doesn't mean you've given up, and it doesn't mean you don't care. It just means that doesn't work right now. So you have to do something different. The serenity to accept the things you cannot change right now. But when you step back from what should be, you're given a whole range of possibilities, perhaps, or it's just a matter of being patient until something unfolds. But all internal choices, right? It doesn't involve the world changing. It's just our approach to the world, to the problem, to the person or the situation. So it gives you, I heard a psychologist once say that the worst cause of stress for anyone was feeling like they're out of control. And what in life at the moment, we're out of control. Our plans are on hold. And yet control, to bring Viktor Frankl back, is that choice to focus on what we do have rather than what we don't have, what we can do, what's right in front of us, what is here rather than what we think should be here. Yeah. We have beautiful lives, we are blessed in so many ways, and yet we take it all for granted. And in many ways, we don't realize how good life was until now, when we realize, I can't just pop down for a cup of coffee. I can't meet my friends at the restaurant. I can't go to the movies. I can't go swimming. I can't. All of a sudden, we're appreciating how good that was. And yet, even those things are gone, there is so much that is good and beautiful and right here now. And it's really up to us to make the most of that, or to stay focused on what we don't have.
Yeah, and it all comes back down to that prioritizing where you place your attention, really, because if you're then refocusing your attention in this current climate that we're in, and you'll focus your attention on all of that could or may happen or may not happen, then that creates that same environment within you. And if you're looking at prioritizing making the most of, we hear those stories that, this has brought up memories from people that were in wartime, and making the most of everything, appreciating every little tiny morsel of food that they had because they were rationed, and making the most of everything that they had in front of them, like you say, just really becoming that. Creates that presentness, doesn't it? It creates that place where there's nowhere else to go, actually, if you make the most of what's in front of you right here, because time is then less relevant because we're out of, we have no control over when this is all going to change for us. So the linear thinking is somewhat, taken sort of back step a little bit to say, okay, so yeah, and then you really do have more of an appreciation of what's in front of you, and that gratitude, and that this is great. I mean, getting the tiniest little thing, brings so much more joy than it probably did before, and I think that's what we're seeing as at the moment, that there's a lot more there's more acceptance coming in, as we talked about, that acceptance of, okay, what's here right now, what can I, back to the speech, and what I can control and what I can't, and I'll accept that's what it is right now, and I'll make the most of, and I'll enjoy it and be grateful for it. It all comes into that, doesn't it? And I think gratitude is, once you've gone past that acceptance of this is it, this is how it is, that you find pleasure and gratefulness. And well, that's my experience of, you do really find gratitude is a big one at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I certainly hope so, but it's always been the invitation, really, is to enjoy life as it is, right here, right now, reality, or live in a dream world. And I wasn't always conscious of when I was living in a dream world, when I was creating a reality that I didn't want. So how wonderful, what a nice wake-up call this could be for you, to embrace and to go, let's make the most of this, as opposed to, well, let's bitch and whine about what we don't have. And I get it, it's very easy to be afraid, especially if, say, you're self-employed, or you're just being, your employer's being an idiot, and your financial future is so uncertain right now. I get this. There could be a lot of pressure, and I'm not saying don't attend to those things, but what I am saying is attend to them from a place of balance and perspective and clarity and calm, rather than getting so lost in trying to find a solution that you have no control over right here, right now, or for the foreseeable future. But it's so valuable, because people, your loved ones, notice that. You create a different culture, if you like, a different energy for your whole family, for everyone that's around you. And I know some people, especially if you're stuck in a small apartment, it's unusual. All of a sudden, you're living with people that you don't spend 24/7 with, and it's finding a new way to relate to those old people. So it, by no means is it easy, because we've got certain habits and certain ways of doing things, but is it for the greatest good? Of course, I believe it with my whole heart. Is this happening for us or to us? Absolutely. Why not embrace the fact this is happening for us? This is for the best, for me, for my loved ones that could come. I think there's two different approaches. You can always assume that the world is against you, or actually the world is quietly supporting you be the best version of you that you could ever be. And sometimes the appearance of that may be unexpected or even unwelcome, but if you assume that the world is looking after you, then gee, life is so much easier, so much more fun, so much more relaxing too. And it's just an assumption, right? It's not a hypothesis. It's not a belief. It's not sticking your head in the sand. It's just assuming that the glass is half full versus half empty. And that's always been yours to define.
Yeah. It's this is challenging times right now for everyone, and we're not, you're not saying that, you're not making that's any less important or not to prioritize your peace, your present you know, awareness to come back to your own, you know, sort of peace. And it's not that at all, you know. It's there's some, you know, it's, you know, there's some people doing some heroic, or call it heroic, roles out there, you know, that are really on the front line with all of, you know, what's currently happening for people. And they're up against things they can't control. And I had an amazing, you know, story from, well, it's not a story, but a friend who is actually in the front line. She's very close to, you know, people who are very, very sick currently. And she, and you know, without their control of how much protection they were allowed to have or could have at any one time, which was always changing for them, which created extra anxiety for a lot of people that were in that position. However, she was somebody who really struggled with a lot of anxiety prior to working this new role that they had. And she's actually finding a lot of peace within the storm. You know, she's found this place of peace because she's serving others, and that she's got right out of the way of herself in that. And actually she's doing okay, you know. She's really, really doing a great job. And so, you know, that's thinking less about, well, what's happening to me, why is this happening, or to me, as you said, you know, this is happening. And actually there's a lot of wonderful, you know, amazing things going on for us right now, you know.
I keep thinking back to Viktor Frankl and his, you know, he invented a whole school of psychotherapy based on the importance of creating one's own meaning, for defining for yourself what life is about. And he said, if you, especially in the concentration camps, those people who gave their life greater meaning through anything, and it could be a loved one, or it could be simply getting through to the end of the war and surviving. It could be anything that the person chose. But the more outside of yourself, the better. So devoting yourself to a higher ideal or another person, or helping in some way, he's saying is the greatest guarantee, not only for happiness, but health. And it's true, the people who are service-minded are the happiest and the healthiest. Science has shown that time and time again, is that something about human connection, making a sense of something, gives us such richness in our own lives, such joy. The bricklayer who's just drudgingly laying another brick, or is it the bricklayer that's creating a beautiful home for a family one day? Same action, completely different experience of life, and a satisfaction and fulfillment. So yeah, absolutely. If you can devote yourself to something, maybe even if it's just your kids, or a higher ideal, or helping, then life takes on a different shine. So many people are looking for purpose and meaning, and it's in helping, it's in service, it's in giving. And I'm not surprised, you know, your buddy, it changes people when they get behind something like this.
Yeah, it's a powerful and amazing time at the same time. It's a challenging time, but it's going to be a, you know, it seems to be like a new world order that's going to come out of it. You know, there's going to be so many wonderful, as it, you know, as any sort of trial and tribulations that we go through, things that are completely out of our control. When we go through them, we can't avoid them, we can't go around them, we can't go under them, we go through them in the best way possible. You know, and that's coming back to our inner presence and inner awareness to be calm, you know. So, yeah.
Just making the, like I said, making the most of what you have right here, right now.
Yeah.
Because we almost treat life like a bus stop, that we're sitting at the bus stop waiting for life to come along, waiting for something better to come along.
Yeah.
But this is life. This is what life is, what's right here in front of you. You're swimming in it.
Mm.
And it's so easy to miss out on that, to hope for something better, to resist the bus that is here, resist the life that is here. And it really, once you see it, it becomes such a choice to not do that and fully immerse yourself in the life that you have. As John Lennon said, life is what happens while we're making other plans. And all of a sudden we get to the end of our life and go, huh? Is that it?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're too busy thinking about it and not enough living of it.
I have right now a cat that wants to go out of the room, so I shall let her out. I'll be back.
Cats, eh?
Things we can't control, always control. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, I think it's important now that people reach out to, keep connecting with one another, because that's, and find a way to, keep calm, whatever works for them, whether it's through, I think now, because we're more confined to our homes, people were finding comfort in nature and going out, and it's become more and more sort of important to find a way to keep your calm in all the chaos that's appearing to be out there. And I know that for me, my way into all that calmness was through meditation, and that is the doorway, I believe, into being that steady anchor for yourself and for your friends and family, and in any life situation that that you're faced with. And I think it keeps that healthy mind and body as best as we can. As you said, you touched on, we're all doing our best. We're finding the right way to navigate through all of this right now. But yeah, and you as yourself as an Ishaya teacher, teaches ascension meditation. It's a beautiful way that you can have that inner peace and inner calm.
Here's the thing, though, is that it's really obvious when you could be doing things better, where you could be more skillful in your living and what you're putting your attention on, is that if you're suffering, if you're finding life dissatisfactory or sticky or just not quite right, the one place you can change is looking at, oh, perhaps I've got a judgment, an expectation, an assumption, some kind of filter in play that doesn't need to be there, because it's creating suffering. It's creating a within me. Now, I don't mean, sometimes that involves having a conversation with someone, clearing the air, laying down what you would like to see. But a lot of the time it is just like, oh, that's an expectation. That's an idea or an assumption that I either haven't made clear or I need to let go of. I once heard that resentment is very, very powerful, very, very useful, very, very useful things to experience, simply because it shows you, if you're self-aware enough, of two things. Either you just need to stop whining and get on with it, or go and express, change, do something. You know, your situation is black and white. Just suck it up, let go and be present, or do something about it. And it's the same, you know, if you're feeling resentment or anger or frustration or feeling like you're trapped or focusing on what you don't have, you can change that. You can change it. And the Alcoholics Anonymous, maybe it's just serenity, acceptance. You need to let go. You need to focus on what you do have. Or it's about having a quiet, calm conversation with someone going, look, this is what I would like. And then letting go, whether they listen to you and change or not. But the fact is, you've said your piece. The fact is, now it comes back to acceptance and serenity. But it's a wonderful alarm. It's a wonderful indicator where you could be doing things differently, where life doesn't need to feel like you're heading against a brick wall.
Yeah.
And the answer is those two things. Part of that is an attitude of acceptance, serenity, of letting go. Part of it maybe is a practice like meditation, of learning to make the habit resting in the still, quiet, silent part of you that is eternally aware, and letting it not being so controlling and resisting. So yeah, definitely an attitude, but also a practice, whatever that may be for you. It's also very, very useful, very, very nourishing and recharging, just on a physical level as well. So, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Wow. You know, it just sort of comes back to the AA. You know, yeah. You know, it's what we let go of, what we have no control, you know, of, and you know, let it be, and just give yourself some slack, and actually also, if we can find a bit of humor and a bit of lightness in it as we go, you know, that has add a spoonful of that, and you know, and that sees you through. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And it all comes back to the third thing, which you haven't really talked about, is the wisdom to know the difference. And
Yes.
I think, as the universe, the world is looking after you, wants you to be more serene, but also more courageous, but also more wise, will constantly give you new opportunities to be wise. Not to have a rule book of this is what I do when, but what does this situation require? What does that quiet inner voice say? But wisdom always comes from, it's not so much experience or learning, maybe a bit of experience, but it comes from that still silent space within. When you're fully present, the intuition, the intuitive wisdom seems to come forth even quicker, even more crystal clear. So make your foundation going within. As I started saying, we are all doers, but we are human beings. And that human being is the stuff that our life grows in. Our presence, our consciousness is the thing that everything that we do, our business, our relationships, our finances, our health, all of that grows within that. And it'd be smart to nurture our connection with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's the place where it can all happen, and does happen, really. Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast with a guy called Jack Kornfield and Tim Ferriss, you know, the famous author, podcaster. But Jack Kornfield is a very long time meditation teacher, and he was talking to then people in China who were in lockdown. And he was saying, you know, you guys are lucky. I've got a bunch of people coming next week for a retreat, and they're paying a great deal of money to be locked in a room by themselves. And you guys get to do it for free. You get your own retreat. So
yeah.
Absolutely. We're always given what we need, and it may not make sense.
Mm.
We might be like a car driving on a windy road at night, and you can only just see so far, because there's a corner. You can just see as far as your headlights will show you. Sometimes that's some distance, sometimes it's a few meters. But the road goes. You just keep driving, keep driving. Don't try and see too far ahead, because you got to look after the next corner rather than the corner 100 corners away.
Say when we're learning to drive, so keep your eyes on the road in front of you. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Arjuna, it's been a real pleasure, a real honor to have listen to the wisdoms today. And I'm sure there's going to be plenty in there to help people right now to find and navigate their way through what's important, what they can and can't control, and to come back to remember that that they have everything within them to their innate wisdom to help them navigate through these challenging times. Yeah.
Thank you, Lorna. You're awesome. You're so amazing. I love you. You're incredible.
Thank you.
But you know what? It shows you what's important to us, what's truly important. So often we've been told that we've brought up in a culture that success is the yacht and the money and the 2.4 kids with the dog and the boat. And yet what's truly important to us, if you get this virus, is your next breath. What's truly important to us is closer than our next breath, even closer than that. But for me, it puts everything in perspective. Yes, the cars, the money, the stuff is fun. We live in such a fun world, but what's truly important is so much closer than even that. So it's just a balancing, a shining existence itself. The fact that we're alive here now is such a cause to celebrate, to enjoy. And it needs nothing. We don't need to attain it. It's here. We are it. It doesn't need proving or propping up or solving. It's just something we can rest in and enjoy. And then if we see something we'd like to do or build or achieve, then great, wonderful. Do it from pure presence and existence. Certainly at the end of your life, no one's ever said, I wish I spent more time at the office. But just that refocusing the lens of getting a bit more balance in our lives is and really defining what success is for us. Not letting it be assumed that success is all these things that we've picked up along the way. So So thank you. I've had a blast. We should do this again.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yay. Yeah, it's been a real pleasure. And you just on your last points there about having that a life that's your measure of success, and what is real success, and in your book the 200% life touches on you've got the outer life and the inner life, and if you have that balance as you talked about, you can have that, but that's you're not measured by any of it. You don't have to acquire all that stuff, but you can have a very rich and rewarding life if it with having a 200% life, with all of it, with your desires, with your achievements, but it's not making it about it. It's not making all of that about your life, really. There's a lot more quality. It's a life that loves living it, really. That's for me is the true success of life, and finding that inner contentment with how it is right now is the place where that's the true success, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Beautifully said.
Oh, well, thank you again, Arjuna. It's been wonderful.
Thank you.
And yeah, I will, and hopefully everyone out there will enjoy. I will put some links at the bottom to tell them where to go, where to find you, your book, your amazing book called 200% Manual. Is it the two? You tell me again what your title of your book is again, exactly.
200% an instruction manual for living fully.
Exactly.
Hang on a minute.
Oh, here we are. Look. Yes, look at this.
That's an early version of it.
We have the book there, and I thoroughly recommend it because I have read it, and I've not only read it in the paperback, but yes, there's currently. I'm not going to date stamp it, but it's available electronically as well. And I will put this post out at this point in time today. So, and for the future when people dip back in to hear your inspirations today, Arjuna. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorna. And if there's anything I can do for you, just let me know, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.